welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Multiplayer the Podcast by Gamers for Gamers. I'm your host, Zach Matscanis, alongside the lover boy himself, Javier Ortiz.
Oh, did you say something about loving something? Because I do love things. I love this.
Yeah, how is that PS5 controller? You still digging it?
Oh, it's excellent. Oh, for those listening on the audio side, I'm holding a PS5 controller because I love the PS5 and I love the controller and I love everything about it. But yes, it's awesome.
Did you figure out how to get good in Overwatch with your PS5 controller?
I did, actually. I did. I messed around with some camera settings. And it just took a little bit of adjustments. I watched a few YouTube videos about what do you recommend for console settings, and I took some advice and I've been testing it out, and I can say it's a lot better now. I feel more comfortable using the PS5 controller.
Well, maybe you can get to top 500 where I'm at one of these days, and we can play together.
Maybe someday you reach top 10. All right.
I'm in top 40 right now.
I didn't say that. I said top 10.
I'm getting there. Leave me alone. And remember, Multiplayer is all over the place, in your ears and in your face. You can check us out at youtube.com/multiplayered, where you can see our ugly mugs. But if you are like, oh damn, those dudes are ugly, you can check us out over on podcast services everywhere, including Pandora. We just got approved for that. So, for the 10 people still using Pandora, I think I was one of the last 20, and I even dipped out. But if you're still over there, I don't even know how you listen to a podcast on Pandora.
Yeah, I didn't know you could do that.
Isn't that just random over there?
I thought so. I thought it was just kind of like old Spotify, but
yeah. So it's like, if you listen to a Pandora radio station and our stupid voices come on, I mean, just roll with it.
It's a weird playlist, but hey.
Yeah, it's like. It's hard heavy metal rock and multiplayer podcast. And of course, all of our episodes go live every Wednesday on podcast services, on YouTube, and of course, you can check us out on Instagram at Go Multiplayer, where we typically do a live show. We had some technical issues this week. I'm working it out, everybody. Hopefully next week we'll be back doing Instagram lives, and it's typically we record around noonish on Sundays. So if you ever want to join in on the fun, ask questions, kind of join in the ridiculous conversations we have on this show, come hang out with us. And of course, yeah, subscribe, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Helps build the show. Tell your friends, tell your grandma, tell your dog.
I tell my dog all the time.
We got some. Say, hey, Sheba, better listen to Multiplayer. And he just stands there because he's a dog.
Because he's a dog and he can't talk.
He doesn't know what's going on in his life other than food. But anyways, Hav, I think we have a pretty good show ahead of us. And so this week we're going to be talking about a couple different things. We're going to be talking about esports, a little esports news.
I like
going
esports.
On. Both good, confusing, and sad. So I'll kind of get into that here in a little bit. We're also going to be talking about a new studio that's developing a brand new game for the PlayStation 5 and maybe some other things, but I'm assuming PlayStation 5.
Exciting.
And a new PlayStation 2 game. Wouldn't that be funny?
That's what I've been waiting for.
Like a whole new studio just comes out and they're like, we want to make a brand new PlayStation 2 game.
We have the technology now.
Kind of like off topic, but I started watching the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, and I was why is this in 4:3? What year is this?
That was weird. I was like, okay, because I watched it. I was like, all right, that's an interesting choice to make, I guess. But hey, you do you, man. If you're happy.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting choice for this, a movie that's supposed to be grand and epic, and then you're kind of smushed into a 4:3 frame. I feel like you're kind of missing a lot, but
I felt like a kid again, though. I was watching a Batman cartoon.
I know. I should have pulled out my CRT TV to watch Justice League. I don't know. I haven't finished it yet. I'm kind of watching it like a TV show right now.
Oh, okay, right on.
Yeah. And anyways, so last thing we're going to kind of talk about today is Doors. I want to talk about Doors.
Oh, the Doors, the band?
Not the band.
Oh.
Not the band. Talk about Doors in video games. And, I'll kind of get into that a little later. And, of course, our little fun quiz show where I try and stump Hav with ridiculous, easy questions. And some a little harder. I think a little harder today.
Nice.
For You NintenDON'T Know Jack. So, Hav, why don't we go ahead and jump into all this, shall we?
Let's go.
All right, baby. Okay, so first thing I'd like to talk about this week is PlayStation is now part owner of EVO. Say what?
That's a pretty big event to be part owner of.
Yeah. So I'm gonna read just a quick little blurb here from The Verge. Quote, Sony and RTS, a new venture from Endeavor's esports business, have acquired this prestigious EVO fighting game tournament through a joint venture esports partnership. The terms of the acquisition were not disclosed due to contractual commitments, whatever that means. And then just to continue here a little bit, fighting games have been a vital part of PlayStation's legacy and our community since the very beginning, and we've been thrilled to partner with EVO over the years, Stephen Roberts, Vice President of Global Competitive Gaming at Sony Interactive Entertainment, said in a press release. This joint acquisition with RTS marks a new chapter of collaboration with EVO's co-founders and their passionate community of fighting game fans. So, this is it's interesting. It's interesting news, and I don't know how to feel about it.
I feel like this just says that PlayStation, what's it called? PlayStation, is it Battle All Stars or PlayStation All Stars? Their Super Smash Brothers clone with Sony characters.
Yeah. You think that's coming?
Oh,
back?
that's coming to EVO, baby. Hook up your PlayStation 3s.
I don't know about all that.
We're playing that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would be pretty ridiculous. Yeah, so for the people out there that don't know what EVO is, it's basically like a fighting, or like a video game tournament for specifically fighting games. So it's like Street Fighter, Tekken, Guilty Gear,
Mortal
which I'm
Kombat,
like a big fan of.
Dragon Ball FighterZ.
Mortal Kombat. Oh yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
Smash Brothers.
Yep.
So specifically Melee for the most part, but I think Ultimate as well as was in there. But it's one of those things where most of the games at the fighting tournaments are played on PlayStation. For the most part, I know like Tekken is definitely like on the PlayStation side, and I think most of the others like Guilty Gear and whatnot, like they're all kind of played over on PlayStation with PlayStation controllers. I think it's just kind of what people are used to for the most part. Even though a lot of people, they have like the fighter sticks.
Yeah, the sticks, yeah.
But I think a lot of times like these games, they're played over on PlayStation consoles, and I to be quite honest, I'm not like the biggest esports guy. Like I do like to watch competitive Smash and a bit of like competitive Overwatch. So I don't watch EVO like a huge like hardcore fighting game, tournament fan would. But I obviously like I think that esports are, very good for just like video games as a whole, like, kind of building those communities of people that love those games. And those are the kind of things that transcend video games and start to reach like the everyday person that's like, video games are still a thing? What's going on? It's like, yeah, video games are huge, dude. Like, get with the times.
Yeah, really.
However, are you a big EVO guy?
I've watched. I not necessarily EVO, because when it comes to competitive games, I don't watch the fighting genre all that much. I watched a little bit when Dragon Ball FighterZ was out, and they had that involved because it's such a really beautiful game to look at.
Yeah, it looks like it's just like a a scene straight out of DBZ, where it's like what scene is this?
Honestly.
Oh no, this is just from EVO.
Yeah, like it straight up looks like the anime. But
yeah.
Other than that though, like I've never really been big into watching it, but like whenever I've seen highlights of it, it's pretty amazing. Just because like you're watching, it's like wow, I'll never be able to accomplish these combos so fast. Like it's insane.
Yeah.
Like the guy, I think his name is Sonic Fox, and he's like one of the best fighting game players in the world. And it's like watching him play like Mortal Kombat or Dragon Ball Fighter Z. It's just like, geez, like this guy is like like how does he like? I don't know how he does it, but it's so incredible. So like watching like the top tier, it's really interesting because like once they're in a rhythm, it's amazing what they accomplish.
Yeah, I've seen matches, and specifically like Mortal Kombat, you could just juggle somebody into a
Oh yeah,
like they'll literally never touch the ground.
It's
like,
nuts.
Well, geez, it's so crazy. And I was at E3 a couple years ago, before DBZ. So DBZ was out, DBZ Fighters, but it hadn't come to Switch yet. So they had like the Switch version over on the Nintendo floor, and I was like, oh, let me try it out. And I've played a little bit of DBZ, but I was in no way great at that game. So I went over there and I was like trying it out with somebody that clearly like plays in tournaments.
Yep.
And he's literally not even paying attention to the screen. He's watching on like a big projector screen. They had a Smash Brothers tournament going on, and he's watching that and just juggling me into oblivion. Like I literally never hit the guy.
Oh, it's funny.
And then I was just like, "Gee, great, thanks, dude."
That's the thing. Once they got you, it's just like I don't even need to look anymore. I just know the buttons, and that happened to me a few years ago. This is actually more than a few years ago. It was back when I was still back home in Philly. A Comic-Con I went to, this was right around when Injustice came out, and so like they had an Injustice booth for people to play, and I'd always played with my friends, and I thought I was pretty good, and I played, and like this dude who played Superman, just like I never landed a hit. Like he either had me on the ground, or like as soon as I got up, I was in the air. I was like I couldn't even move. I was like, wow, now I know what it's like in this world.
Yeah, isn't it funny? Like, especially like the days before the internet was a thing. It's like, oh yeah, dude, I could beat all my friends at like Smash Brothers or something. Like, I'm pretty great. And then you get in the real world. Yep. You're at like a tournament, or like you're online playing competitively, and it's like, oh wow,
I'm not good at this.
I'm not good at this. Like, man, because I used to play competitively in Smash, and I've won a couple like smaller tournaments, but like you get to the big things, and it's just like, yeah, these guys are just. This is like they eat, sleep, and poop. Smash Brothers, and it's just
nuts.
Crazy. I'll never be that good. I'm just I'm okay. I'm okay at Smash Brothers. But anyways, so what I wanted to kind of like bring up here with this, this kind of acquisition or like partnership is like. With like kind of like obviously Microsoft's been buying a bunch of studios lately, and they're kind of building up their roster there. And it looks like PlayStation's kind of doing the opposite, where it's like they've, they're good, like they have a stable of like great developers, and it's like, what else can we buy? Let's buy EVO. Why not
expand our portfolio?
Yeah, or like expand their reach, with like their messaging and kind of the PlayStation brand in general. So now it's like, EVO sponsored by PlayStation, or PlayStation's EVO, or so, or whatever they
that'll be huge.
End up kind of like branding it as in the future. And then it's just like if you're a fighting game fan, you got to play on PlayStation. Especially like if you're trying to play competitive, you better play on PlayStation. It's just kind of like an interesting approach to like what they're doing. Microsoft's all like Game Pass, like digital video games of the future. And PlayStation's more like, let's put a bunch of people in a room and make them play PlayStation.
It'll be interesting because I don't know if like Killer Instinct is part of EVO, because that's a Microsoft one, isn't it?
Yeah, because that's a Rare property.
Yeah,
that's a good question. I don't think I don't think Killer Instinct's part of EVO, but
because I know that's a big fighting game for sure. Like the new one on Xbox, I know when it came out it was pretty big. But I mean, I guess if they're still doing like, well, I guess Melee is different. That's like a whole different type of thing. But I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if they would allow an Xbox for Killer Instinct.
Yeah, so I don't have the quote in front of me here, unless it's right here at the end. Let me see here. Oh yeah, here. So let me just read this really quick quote here. So this is on The Verge again from Sony on their blog. So our collective team is laser focused on one mission: preserving the authenticity of EVO for the fighting game community and finding creative ways alongside our fans to grow the tournament and make its events in progress more fun, engaging, and accessible. More fun, engaging, and accessible than ever. At its core, EVO will remain what it has always been: an open format competition that gives fighting game fans from different countries a chance to connect, test their skills, and forge new friendships. The canons will remain closely involved in oh, that's some other stuff. That's talking about the owners. But yeah, so they're basically just saying it's like it's open to like other people as well. Other companies. Although Nintendo has already like commented, and I don't have the I don't have the quote in front of me, but Nintendo was like, yeah, we'll see what happens, which means they're probably not going back to EVO. They're gonna do their own thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they don't have to. I guess they could do their own thing, and it would be just as big or just as popular.
Yeah. See, the only problem with Nintendo is they don't understand tournaments.
Well, that's
like they just
that's true.
Yeah, like I've played in some like Smash tournaments specifically sponsored by Nintendo, and it's always like, what's going on with these rules? Like,
yeah, don't they have like a free for all almost, like in early rounds, like just a bunch of people?
Yeah, it'll be like 4 people, 2 minutes, kind of nonsense. Yeah. I've been in Nintendo, like official Nintendo tournaments where like items are on. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? Like, like it's a time battle and items are on. Come on, dog.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's not competitive Smash. It's just put somebody in charge on the Nintendo Smash team. That's like, I'm gonna take care of tournaments. I used to work for EVO or something. Like, Frank EVO here. I'm gonna.
This is my domain.
Yeah, it's Nintendo's a little silly when it comes to, because they don't like their stuff that competitive. Like, for the longest time, Sakurai like pushed so hard against like the competitive scene and implemented like tripping into Smash Brothers.
Oh my god,
stuff like that. Yeah, it's so dumb, but I don't know. They seem a little more open to it nowadays, especially since they allowed Smash to join EVO a few years back. For the longest time, it wasn't, but they finally let it in. But yeah, overall though, it's like I feel like Microsoft and Nintendo are just gonna like dip out altogether, and this is just gonna ultimately become like a PlayStation specific fighting game tournament, which I guess is okay. It's always nice, in my opinion, to kind of see all the consoles sort of come together for like big events.
Yeah, for sure.
And that includes PC, obviously, but it just seems like this is kind of taking a different approach now. Let me just kind of get your final thoughts on this before we sort of move on.
Well, I agree. I mean, I would say that it's good for Sony, good for PlayStation, but not necessarily good for the others because, games like Killer Instinct, I like that game. I liked it on Super Nintendo. I like the old Killer Instinct, and I played a little when the new one came out. I was able to play it a couple times, and I like that too. And so seeing that kind of, if that's taken away, that kind of sucks. And the same thing for Smash Ultimate. Like, I love that game, and it's it's probably the best Smash game. I guess that's debatable, but it's probably the best Smash game they've ever made in comparison to the past. And so seeing games like that taken away, would really suck, because like these games or these tournaments and these competitions, I think they should be not necessarily one-sided to a specific company. Like it should be an invitation and a celebration across all borders, across all games. And so, good for PlayStation if they found something new that they can have, and it all comes down to the dollar. So if they can make money off this, that's awesome. But it just kind of sucks if it would take away, fighting tournaments or rounds away from other good games like Killer Instinct and like Smash.
Yeah, 100%. And so, I hope that's not the case. I hope it's not like a PlayStation exclusive thing, and they can kind of work out like having games like Smash Brothers. But time will tell. We'll see what the next EVO looks like, and if it's all just like a bunch of people sitting around PlayStations, like PS4s, PS5s, or whatever.
Yeah, very true.
We'll see. And then kind of on the same wavelength as that, kind of keeping with esports. I don't want to talk too long about this, but I just thought it was an interesting piece of news that all this kind of happening within the same week, because obviously like EVO's kind of restructuring a little bit, and Activision Blizzard, they just laid off a bunch of people on the esports side.
Yeah, it sucks.
The Verge says 50 people, but I read somewhere else it was like a couple hundred people.
I thought it was way more than that.
Yeah, I don't know why the Verge is saying that.
I read.
I don't have the other.
I know. I thought I saw something earlier this week that said like the Blizzard laid off, I want to say in the thousands, and like the CEO just got like a giant bonus or something. Like
yeah. That part's pretty poopy. I'll tell you what, I'll kind of read a little bit from this if you want to pull up a different article that says a different number. But yeah, so basically so Activision, they're doing a little bit of restructuring, and they've basically been laying people off on the esports side. And this comes from The Verge. The company cites that the COVID-19 pandemic's effects on both the viability of live productions for its esports leagues and the changing viewership habits of its core audience is basically why they're like doing this restructuring. This is a quote here: "Players are increasingly choosing to connect with our games digitally, and the esports team, much like traditional sports entertainment and broadcasting industries, has had to adapt its business due to the impact the pandemic has had on live events." And this is the ridiculous thing. So, according to Bloomberg, laid off employees will receive 3 months of severance, which is good. Glad they're getting something. It could have been nothing. Health benefits for the next 12 months, which is awesome. Really good. Yeah. It'd be really messed up if they took away somebody's health benefits, during a pandemic. The one that seems pretty poopy to me is they're getting a $200 gift card to battle.net.
It's like, I know you don't work for us, but like, if you want to buy a few of our games, here you go, buddy.
Yeah, it's if I like worked for them and they laid me off and gave me a $200 gift card, I would like, it's probably just a digital gift card, but I would print it out and throw it in their face.
Yeah, really.
That's like, it's like, yo, get out of here, dude. You stupid $200 gift card.
Here's the here's what I got. What I saw earlier this week.
Lay it on me.
So it was the CEO of Activision Blizzard, Bobby Kotick, is going to receive a $200 million bonus during the layoffs.
Great.
And the layoffs, the layoffs announced were supposed to be 50 people in the esports / live events departments. But it's actually someone close to a source says it's actually 2% of the total staff, which would be around 190 people.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I knew there was a bigger number out there.
That's nuts, though. $200 million, but, like, screw you, man. Like, what do you, like...
Yeah.
It's so nuts.
It's
like,
pretty messed up.
Are you crazy? Like, that's insane.
I don't want to... like I don't want to get too political on this show, but I definitely think like that should just not be allowed.
Yeah,
like, just there needs to be laws that like, yo,
that's more than a salary.
You know, that's more than that's like, you know, that would literally be if everybody was making, you know, even like $500,000 a year, like that's 40 people you could pay with that, you know.
Yeah.
I think that math is right. I hope it's
right. It's the principle of what you're saying is what matters here.
Yeah, exactly. You know, don't think about the math too much, but I think it's right. But yeah, you know, it's just kind of messed up. It's like, come on, Activision.
That's nuts, man. Like that's insane. But yeah, it's a shame too because like you know, this affects their esports and their live events. And I like you'd mentioned at the beginning of the show, you watch Overwatch League sometimes. I always watched it. Like I loved it. I loved watching it.
You went to live events.
Yeah, I went to in their inaugural season. Yeah, I went to a few, and it was super fun. Like I loved it. And you know, this past year or the year before, different cities were building arenas for it. Like I know back home in Philly, like they built an esports arena for the Fusion, the Philadelphia Fusion. And it was like, you know, I follow them on like Instagram and Twitter and stuff. And like, you know, their pictures looked really cool. It looked like a really cool space. And, you know, they had events for fans, you know, for the upcoming season. But then the pandemic hit and it's like all these teams built these esports arenas for nothing now. Cause like, you know, all the teams are now remote. Like I think they're playing in like Korea or something. And, you know, it's just like, it's a waste. And it's like, man, it sucks, man. Like it's such a bad time for this to happen because like I really enjoyed the arena and like the games live and like watching the like the finals like on YouTube and stuff. It was like packed house. Like they filled up the I think for one of the finals it was like the Barclays Center in New York. Like they had it filled and it was just awesome. Like it's so cool to see and like, you know, it's such a cool event to go to. It's really fun. It just sucks. It really sucks that this happened and like all these people are, you know, they're out of a job and like they have to cut back on the whole esports side of things. Like I really hope that there's a bounce back, you know, because it's a shame.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, and it, like I said, I think it's more like a restructuring where they're trying to figure out, you know, how to not rely on live events now.
Right.
You know, obviously this whole COVID thing is, you know, it's affected, you know, we're mostly just talking about video games here. Obviously it affected the entire world. There's some horrific things going on,
sure.
but we keep it silly on this show. But on the video game side, it's like, yeah, I mean, it really sucks because it's, you know, I want, you know, esports to kind of hit that mainstream where like, you know, people that, and it really has, you know, like ESPN stuff has like started, you know, streaming esports games and stuff like that. And it's,
you also have tons of athletes,
like
tons of athletes are like investing in esports teams and leagues and stuff. Like a lot of money is being pushed into it because they know that it's the future.
Yeah, so it sucks to kind of see this like step backwards where it's like, all right, well now we need to figure this out again. But it was great seeing like a stadium with like a packed house where it's like, oh man, this is legit.
Yeah.
Like this isn't like 12 nerds in a basement, you know, playing video games.
Yeah.
It's like that's a real that's like a football game right there, you know. It's,
yeah, and we're just talking about stateside because I know like in you know like 100%. South Korea and like they'll fill up stadiums for like League of Legends and stuff like, and it's insane. Yeah. It's just as big as the Super Bowl over there.
Yeah, StarCraft, you know, games like that. I mean, they're just huge overseas. But yeah, so you know, we'll see what happens in the future with like esports in general, from EVO to you know what you know Blizzard's and or Activision Blizzard's doing with their esports. You know, kind of time will tell. I think a lot of it's just gonna go digital, but I hope we get to a point in the future where you know we're doing packed houses again for esports.
I hope so because I mean I think it will because you know it seemed to be doing well before, and I can't imagine like it might be easier to make it all digital, but like I still think there's money to be made when it comes to the live events. Plus, it's like you know it's showcasing for your fans and your product, you know, and I think that's a good thing.
For sure. And I really do think it adds like a bit of like authenticity for people that don't really know the video game world to see, you know, something on ESPN with a packed house for a video game.
For sure.
It's like, oh, this is like legit. This is like, there's real people.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't just like some people over a webcam.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, for sure. That's why there was like one last thing I want to say is like I remember a couple years ago there's a basketball player who's retired now. He's pretty old. I think his name's Bill Walton. I think he played for the Lakers. But like I remember he was like on ESPN and he was talking about a basketball game, and then he was like, "Can I just take a minute to talk about like the esports team we have here in like Los Angeles?" And he was like so happy about it. He was like, "It's so amazing. Like all these young kids are like getting together to play a really fun game, and like it's all so much fun and super entertaining and really nice." And he was like a strong advocate for it. And it's just like it's reached that point where like you're getting, you know, he's an older guy, so it's like you're clearly reaching another generation, but like it's big. You're getting like Hall of Fame type of players from different leagues invested, you know, not just personally but financially invested in these esports leagues. And so like I think it only shows that it has a very bright future ahead, and hopefully that's still in-person events.
Yeah, 100%. So let's move on and kind of like on the talk about layoffs a little bit. I wanted to talk a little bit about Jade Raymond, who
Jade Raymond.
Jade Raymond.
Jade Raymond.
So
I'm saying it like it's a bad thing.
Jade
Raymond.
So you know, we were talking about Google Stadia a couple weeks back, and you know, obviously I don't know what they're doing over there.
They're not doing anything anymore.
They're not doing anything. So, you know, for a while they're like, you know, we're doing the streaming thing, and which they're still doing, but it's like we're gonna make some like our own games, you know, first party Google Stadia games, and they brought in like all these like major players from different, you know, parts of the industry, video game industry. And then they're like, yeah, you know, we're not doing that anymore. And they started laying off people, and a lot of people dipped out. One of those people that just totally dipped out is Jade Raymond.
Jade Raymond.
Who, if you don't know the name off the top of your head, that's okay, but, you know, shame on you. But so I love doing this stupid show. But anyway, so Jade, she's kind of been like a big name in kind of like a head of a development kind of position for a lot of different production or video game companies over the years. So kind of the big ones being Ubisoft and EA, where she's making games like Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed. She was kind of there in the early days of Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs, really like kind of helping those games get off the ground, find their feet. So it's like she's been around the block, you know. She's been in, like I said, like a leadership position for years, and she went over to Google Stadia to, you know, help a new IP kind of find its legs there, and then, you know, kind of the rug got pulled out from under her, and she's like, screw this. Yeah. Started her own video game company, development studio called Haven, which she's like, we're gonna make some new stuff, and it's gonna be for the PlayStation 2.
Better late than never.
She said it's so she's gonna work on a new game for Sony, and I would assume like a PlayStation 5 exclusive, because why would it be anything else?
Yeah.
But you know, it's way too early to kind of know like what she's working on. Like they're probably still buying, you know, or, you know, they're probably still like getting people for the studio to even make a game. They're probably talking about like a literal studio, like we should probably like buy a place for when like COVID's over.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And like, you know, they're probably shopping for chairs.
She's still forming
stuff,
her team.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's so. Yeah, I kind of see this like the early like Kojima Productions day, where, you know, he left Konami, and he's like, all right, here's my new company, screw everybody. Oh, sweet, Sony wants to, you know, give me a fat check to do something. Now we're gonna work on that for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
and they came out with a pretty decent game with Death Stranding.
Yeah,
I liked it.
no, I mean,
anyways.
it's controversial, but still, like, it still had an impact, and a lot of people played it, and a lot of people still liked it. And this is interesting,
Oh
it's
yeah.
I love because to me, what this means is like it's a new IP for PlayStation, which is awesome. I love
Yep.
when every time PlayStation, for the most part, when they've come out with a new IP, I've generally loved it. It's always been pretty awesome. And I would imagine that there is a little bit of a head start because if she was working for Google Stadia and she was working on a project, I'm assuming maybe that project didn't necessarily come with her. Like maybe that's owned by Google Stadia and like it'll never see the light of day.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that the concept and part of the development can't come with her, where she can be like, all right, this is what I was working on. This is what I know I can finish, and it can be a lot better. It's like, and that what she did at Google Stadia, and who knows what she was working on, but maybe that could be a blueprint for what she's about to start with Sony. So like, I feel like, and this is me speculating, of course, but like maybe there's a bit of a head start, for her and her team.
For sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if like Kojima, for instance, he was working on Silent Hills before he left Konami, and I would assume like he had some like creepy things in his brain that he's
Kojima?
like, I'm gonna put this in Death.
Oh,
he's always got some weird stuff in there, but I wouldn't be surprised if like he had some ideas in his head for Silent Hills that made its way into Death Stranding, and it could be like kind of the same thing with this, which is whatever Haven's original IP is going to be. Before we kind of move on, I just wanted to ask, like, with Sony's kind of set sort of stable of games right now, mostly being like third person,
adventure narrative.
Adventure, like linear, like story driven games, like AAA games. What do you kind of want to see out of a new studio? Are you like, if that's what she wants to do, go for it, or it's like, I have enough like of these like story driven third person shooters, like give me something else? How you feel?
I don't have enough of that. I want more of that because I want more narrative story, because like the last narrative driven game I played was probably Miles Morales. Like that was the newest one.
Mm-hmm.
And before that,
Ghost of
Tsushima. Oh yeah, duh. Ghost of Tsushima.
Duh.
Yeah. So like I want more of that. Like I love that. Like give me an interesting world, give me a cool story, and give me a cool character to play. And I'm happy. Like I don't need the next wave of online multiplayer and like this is gonna revolutionize. I don't need that. Just tell me a good story. I love hearing a good story, and I love like cool dynamic gameplay with interesting characters. That's what I want. Like it, and you can take me to different parts of the world. You can take me through different parts of history. Just tell me a good story. And I feel like Sony, that's always their main priority. Like, you remember that conversation we had with Sean Layden at E3 where he was like, it's all about story. Like that's what I want. And that's what I want them to continue. Like, if they, and it's not like I'll be upset if they, if her and her team Haven are working on, not that it could be a multiplayer thing, if they're working on that, great. But for me, my money, I just give me more narrative storytelling. I love it.
Yeah, 100%. I'm in the same boat as you, where it's like I love story driven, single player games. Give me that all day.
Yeah,
them AAA games. It seems like Jade Raymond.
Jade Haven Raymond.
That's what they call her. Yeah, it seems like she her expertise in like overseeing these projects kind of leans into sort of open world third person games. So it's like maybe they'll do something like that.
Could be.
It's not too many like Sony first party games like that. I think like what's it called? I always always forget that other zombie
Days
game.
Gone?
I think Days Gone is kind of like that, like
Yeah.
somewhat open world.
I think so.
I think Ghost of Tsushima. I guess
Ghost of
sort of,
Tsushima
well,
is
actually,
very open world.
I sort of take it back.
Spider-Man
now,
is open world.
Spider-Man, Horizon.
It's Horizon.
Right, ignore me.
I guess everything except God of War.
God of War,
Even that's
Last
kind of
of
open
Us,
world.
It's I guess so. You can kind of go wherever you want.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Anyways,
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with another open world game. Give me
just give us.
I was gonna say give me an open world ninja game, but Ghost of Tsushima did that for me. Like for the longest time, I was waiting for Assassin's Creed to be like, all right, here it is, the ninja Assassin's Creed, because that makes the most sense. Here it is, and it's like they've never gave it to me, but Sucker Punch did.
Which is so weird.
I know.
I
know. It does. I like. Me and Kahan would always talk about that with Assassin's Creed. It's like, when are you gonna make the ninja one? That's what I've been waiting for. I know it's in your. I feel like that's like their get out of jail free card, where it's like if Ubisoft is ever having problems, they're like, unleash the ninja Assassin's Creed game. Like that's what's gonna save us.
Yeah, exactly. They like botched the next Assassin's Creed, and it's just like, ooh, sales are real down. People hate this series. Assassin's Creed Japan.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that'll right the wrongs.
I'm surprised they haven't done it yet. But Ghost of Tsushima kind of did it for them. Like that's an Assassin's Creed game that I like.
For sure. Well, anyway, so time will tell what Jade Haven Raymond is working on. But
I'm sure she's a very lovely woman.
She seems great. But yeah, so we'll see what what they have in store for us down the line. Probably be a few years before we hear anything, but I'm always down for more great games.
Yeah, and it'll for sure be next gen, which is really nice.
Yeah, definitely going to be a PS5 thing at the. I'd be shocked if it was anything else. If she was like, PSVR, I'm like, yeah,
come on,
got it. Okay, let's totally switch gears and move on to doors. I'm done talking about gears.
Doors.
Let's talk
and
doors.
Gaming.
Yeah, so I read a couple interesting articles over the past week. I'm gonna read a little bit from this one on The Verge. By the way, The Verge is just great. That's just like a little off topic.
This show has just become, what's the best articles on The Verge?
Yeah, well, it's like I try and get my news from everywhere, but I really just leaned hard into The Verge this week, and
hey man,
they're just
they're
great.
good at their job.
But yeah, they're really good at their job. But yeah, so I was reading this interesting article on The Verge that it's basically talking about doors, like literal doors, with hinges and a doorknob that you open, or something like that in video games, and how it's very difficult to design doors in video games.
Oh yeah,
very difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's all sorts of like stories coming out about from developers like talking about how frustrating it is to make doors in games. So I want to read a little bit from this article. It's a little long, but a couple paragraphs, but I think it's like really interesting stuff. So if you don't mind sticking with me here for a minute. So like I said, this comes from The Verge. So The Last of Us Part 2 co-game creator Kurt Marganaw, is how I'm going to say that, called it the thing that took the longest to get right. How doors work is different during combat tension when players are mid-encounter versus not. For example, doors slowly close automatically during combat, but remain open during exploration. If a player is going to open a door, it can't just magically fly open. The character has to reach to the doorknob and push it open, Marganaw explained in one tweet. But what about closing it behind you? How do you do that while sprinting? And then I'm going to kind of skip ahead here. So technical points, of which there are many, set aside, how players process the digital representation of a door matters. Everyone knows how a door works and therefore has a subconscious understanding and expectation of how they move, sound, look. The level of accuracy needed for a player to believe the door is a door is higher for a common object than a fantasy one. says Galbraith. I don't know who that is. Another developer, I'm assuming. I skipped ahead, so I must have missed that. But anyways, our ideas of how we interact with them are incredibly clear due to the cognitive reinforcement we have received from interacting with them so often in a variety of different ways. For doors like the ones in our homes, we subconsciously learn the minute details of how they act, such as the rate at which they close or how much we can move them while they are locked. So when we see a door in a game that closes too fast or without friction, or when there's a locked door where the handle doesn't jiggle and make a sound, we'll notice that something isn't quite right about it. So, and then a little last bit here, you can still fib it a little. While most doors only go in one direction, for example, game doors will often swing either way. When these sorts of virtual doors look, sound, and behave like regular doors, then they hit a level of mental acceptance with the player that allows the player to continue without questioning why every door in the game just so happens to open away from them, Galbraith says. To them, it's just a weird coincidence that the brain subconsciously chooses to ignore. So I know there's like a lot to take in there.
A lot of door talk.
But a lot of door talk, but it's just fascinating because doors are one of those things in games where it's like, obviously, doors are in a lot of games. You got to have doors.
Yep, for sure.
In like a house, you got to have doors in a lot of different spaces. It's just like one of those common things. But like a typical door that's swings open, just like these developers are saying, it's complicated because it's like you need that door to have so many different types of actions. Like when you're like walk up to a door, it's got to like slowly open. But then does it close automatically behind you? Which in some games it does, and it's like weird.
Yeah, a lot of times it just stays open and you can't close it, which annoys me. That happens in horror games. I hate that.
Yeah, and then there's like doors where you'll like walk through the door and it's like a virtual checkpoint, and then that door's closing and you can never go back.
Yep.
And it's just like doors are just funny in games. It's one of those things that are always there, but like unless they're really bad, nobody really talks about them, and that's that's the point. When on the film production side, I've done a lot of like production design, art department kind of stuff for movies and shows and whatnot. And one of the things that's always interesting is like if on the art team, which is like, set design and whatnot, if you've done your job right, you'll never be thanked. Like nobody will talk about it. Like it's like things just make sense in the world,
Yep.
If for instance, like in Game of Thrones, when like the coffee cup was just like found and everybody like is like coffee cup. Yeah. It's just one of those things. It's like it's out of place. It's not right in this world. So it's like your eye is immediately like directed towards it. But if the art department's doing their job right, then you'll never say anything other than like, wow, this is a pretty show.
Yeah, it's like, this does look like a dungeon.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, in video games, like doors are like that, where they're this boring thing that's just there, and if they're done right, you never think about the door. You don't thank the doorman for like designing the door for the game, or the door woman, whoever's like in charge of developing and designing the doors and the animations for the doors. Like it's a thankless job, but it's like it's necessary.
Oh yeah,
somebody's
for sure.
Gonna do it.
All those minute details.
Yeah, and the thing that I've always found funny in games is just like the doors that swing both ways, and it's just like so silly.
Doesn't make any sense.
It's like it doesn't make any sense. Like, what doors have you ever seen in life that swing both ways?
Yeah.
But also, it'd be like really weird, if you like run through a door, and then like you're going the other way, and it's like, all right, well now I need to open this door the opposite way. It's like, especially in a game like The Last of Us, Jesus, that would suck.
Yeah.
You're like trying to open a door, swing it back towards you while like clickers are coming for your face.
Yep.
That's
why it's like in Resident Evil, like the door swings both ways. Like you can run up and kick the door open, or you can like slowly open it, and then if you want to leave, it's the same thing.
Yeah. So it's So I just wanted to take a little bit of time here and talk about doors in games, and I asked you before the episode, like think about some games with doors that kind of stand out to you?
Yeah.
And I'll let you start because I feel like I've been talking for a minute.
So the first thing I thought of was an Ocarina of Time, with the fake doors that attack you.
Oh yeah.
It's like they fool you into thinking like, oh, here's a way out of this room, and then all of a sudden the door just like smacks you, and it just gets back out. Yeah. It's like, oh, like that's not what like that's never been a thing here. Like, why do doors attack me now? Like now all of a sudden they're using a door as a mechanic to like you think you can escape, but you can't because it's gonna get you.
That's such a Nintendo thing because they do that in Luigi's Mansion.
Yep.
And they do it in a couple of the Mario games where the doors will become booze. And
it's
like,
yeah, very much so.
So Nintendo just likes to play with doors.
Another one from Nintendo is in Super Mario 2, where the
that was one of mine.
The potion, and like depending on where you use it, that door can lead somewhere else entirely. Like and some people use it automatically, but it's like it really is strategic, and there's no way of knowing like where should I put this. Like there's no clue. There's no anything. It's just trial and error. So it's it's a much earlier game, but still, it's like it's a mechanic that like you can't know unless you keep doing it, and it's interesting to where that magic door can lead to. I thought of Arkham Knight as well. Arkham Knight was a game that there's no load screens. It's just you continue like all the time, and like the only time there is a load screen is certain doors. When Batman opens it, it's a very unique animation that happens where the camera kind of gets really close to Batman, and it's like he does the same kind of like shoulders are moving as he opens the door, and it's literally it's loading the next area, but it's like that's not a load screen, that's just him opening a door, but it's like that's totally a load screen. You're just using this door as an illusion to make us think it's a and it's still impressive, like it's still technically not a load screen. It's just the way they designed it's like that animation equals load time for the next area, which I thought was really interesting. It's a very unique way of making your world bigger without necessarily having a loading time.
Yeah, and a lot of developers will do that with their games where they put the loading basically behind a door, behind like a literal door, so that it's just like, okay, we're going to load this area. Once they open that door, we can load the next area.
Right.
And actually, I'll bring up my first one, and this one's a little bit of a tangent, but it's like Metroid, doors in Metroid, specifically Metroid Prime, is the one that always like bugged me because I'm like, so in the Metroid series, period, you have to shoot the doors to open. I'm gonna get to that in a second, but with Metroid Prime, a lot of times you'll shoot a door. It'll just take a couple seconds, like it'll be like 5 seconds. Like, why isn't this door opening? Like shooting this stupid thing. It's because it's loading the world behind that door. Right. And when I played the original Metroid Prime, it's kind of before I wrap my head around that. So I'm like, what in the hell is going on with these doors? Why are they so slow to open? I don't understand it. But then once I realized it was like, oh, it's loading this big old world on the other side. So there's a lot of games that do that, but kind of staying on Metroid for a second, the doors at Metroid are so stupid. They're so stupid. Like, so in the Metroid universe, there's some sort of like door empire. Like there's some entity out there invented doors and put them on all these freaking planets all across the universe in this Metroid world, where it's not like a door with a doorknob. You don't like wave a key card. No, you shoot the door.
It's like a bubble.
So in this world, and that's for everywhere. Like every single door in that universe, you have to shoot that door to open. So you tell me I have to own a gun to open a door in my own household.
Yes.
What type of nonsense is that?
It's called like alien technology, and your human mind can't comprehend it.
Apparently not. It's so stupid. Like it works for the game, but if you think about it, it's like starting to think about like Dracula's castle and like Castlevania or something, where it's like when you start to like really make sense of this, it makes no sense.
Oh yeah, there's no logic at all.
This man lives in this Dracula lives in this castle. How's he even go out and get his mail? This is ridiculous. Like It's kind of the same with these stupid doors in Metro. I'm like, who's living in this world shooting these doors to get inside? It doesn't make any sense.
It's a very dangerous world, kind of like America. You just need a gun to get around everywhere. It's
Ain't that the truth?
I also thought of in Resident Evil, because I also just played it, Resident Evil 7, Biohazard.
Yeah.
It's like when you open doors, if you're opening it slowly, like sometimes you don't need to use the doorknob. Sometimes he just pushes it open. I'm like, bro, you didn't even. There's a doorknob right there. You're not gonna. And it still sounds like it. It still sounds like the turning of a knob as he opens it, but it's like his hand is clearly not on the doorknob. He's just pushing it open.
Yeah.
But also, what annoys me is that when you do that, you can't necessarily turn your head. And I know they do it for like, because it's a scary game, they don't want you to look, but it's like you can't just like open it and like turn your head as you're opening. It's like you have to open it and look at the door open. And it's like, move your head, let me look at what, unless you stop. If you slowly open it and stop, and then you can peek through to see if there's anything. But like you can't just like continue to open with your head over, just kind of looking. And it's just like, I know you're trying to scare me, but I don't want you to. Let me look as I open, or unless you're just running and you just like pushing doors open nonstop. But then there's also doors that don't close behind you, and some do, and it's just like,
oh yeah,
what? Why? Like, let me close it.
This is a weird magic house.
It is.
You know, the doors are infected with the T virus. They have a mind of their own.
Very true.
Yeah, it's definitely something. It's like I want to like peek through doors and stuff like in a horror game, because it's. You know, like crack it open, look in. Yeah. Oh, is there a dude with a butcher's knife ready to stab me? But obviously the games are designed for you to.
Yeah, I know it.
Plus, it would be complicated. Before we move on to our last thing, I just wanted to give an ultimate shout out to Resident Evil in general, like the old school Resident Evil games. So like for the original OG PlayStation, have like the most classic doors. Like if you think about doors in a game, I feel like your mind first goes to those Resident Evil doors, because it's like you walk up to a door and you go to open it, and then it cuts to just a screen of a door,
in black,
and the door. It's
that
like
always creeped me out.
Yeah, it's they made a game that like for the PlayStation, the OG PlayStation, it's pretty technically ambitious, and it's like to load these different areas they needed loading screens, and they basically hit these loading screens, and man, OG PlayStation loading screens are atrocious. Like they're atrocious. But those original RE games, they did a great job with hiding these loading screens behind these like doors, and they open really freaking slow, and sometimes you're like, geez, I just want to get to the next room, but it still always adds like a little bit of tension where it's like, wonder what's on the other side of this door, and it's just like,
yeah, it always made me think of the Twilight Zone. So creepy.
Yeah, like the Twilight Zone door.
Yeah.
So I just want I think if we are giving out door awards, the Dories
the Dories,
welcome to the first annual door awards.
I like that. Oh,
the Dory goes to.
Also, shout out to Super Mario 64, where paintings were like their doors to worlds, and I thought that was really I thought that was really cool. Like it just kind of, it's almost like you're jumping into a puddle, and like the ripples when you jump into this door to a new world.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's so many games that like Portal, for instance, where it's like they put a
it's all about going through doors. Yeah, technically.
Oh yeah, technically, and it's your own door made from science.
Some would say a window, holes. But we'll call it doors.
I mean, a window is just a door to the soul.
There you go. Put that on a t-shirt.
It's on my t-shirt right now, psych. Ain't nothing on this t-shirt. Okay, let's move on. We're running out of time. I want to hit you with some questions, Hob.
Let's do it.
And our little fun segment, You NintenDON'T Know Jack, where sometimes you do know Jack, but we'll see if I can stump you today. So if you're new to this, if you've been living under a rock, every week we have our little Mario quiz cards that I have here that got a bunch of nonsense questions in tons of different genres. This week I picked 3, I think, pretty darn good questions that are absurd, but we'll see if it tickles the brain a little bit. Get your gears thinking of it. Get your doors opening.
My doors
your
opening.
Doors.
Yeah, hit me.
Okay, so this first one comes from Arts, Sports, and Leisure.
Okay.
Hav, where was the kite invented?
France.
So was it France?
No!
Canada, or Asia? And
Asia?
I picked this. Yeah, just Asia in general. That's a big place.
What?
It's like in the, but these are from '95, so it's like
all of Asia.
Just all of it. It's kind of like the other week when who invented tournaments?
Oh
just
yeah,
in general.
Just
it's like what?
Every tournament you can think of.
So where was the kite invented? France, Canada, or Asia?
I mean, I feel like Asia is very broad. It covers a lot of ground.
It's true.
That's a lot of the world. I kind of want to say France because it's usually my go-to with these kinds of questions because it just seems like France is just responsible for random things.
Yep.
And the other one's Canada?
In Canada.
I don't know anything about what Canadians have invented in the past.
Maple syrup?
Outside of syrup. That's so weird. Let's go with Asia. It covers the most ground. Asia.
All right. Hav says Asia, and the answer is ding, ding, ding. Asia.
What? Oh, it doesn't matter where in Asia. Just Asia.
And this kind of a weird paragraph about it, but here it goes. So kites although some historians and archaeologists believe that kites were invented by Greek scientists, Arcadus of Tentrum in the 5th century BC, it is more likely that kites were created in Asian countries long before. So it really doesn't give a real
That's
fact
not very
here.
specific at all.
It's like kites. The kite was invented in Asia, and then it's just like, well, science says that archaeologists and historians say that this person in Greece in the 5th century did it, but it was probably Asia.
But it's likely it was made in Asia first. It's like that's not information at all.
It's like a lot of things were invented in China back in the day, like in the BC times. Like they were crushing it over there with with a lot of different inventions, but. Maybe they made the kite.
That's not
it. Definitely. That's all we know is it definitely wasn't France or
Canada. That's such a weird argument. It's like we know that this person in Greece made it, but Asians probably did it first. It's like that's not an argument. Like that's like, who? It's like just Asia did it.
Yeah. It's like I said, that's from '95, so maybe the science is a little more, or like the
history has changed.
Archaeologists have really nailed down like who made the kite.
It's such a weird.
Okay, your next. Speaking of Canada,
Ooh.
Hav. Oh, and this comes from Social Life.
Okay,
Hav. Who are the Mounties? And I love these answers.
Oh wait,
so
what was the was there a fun image for the kite one?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so let me show you so we got Mario flying a kite.
Oh, it's nice.
On the front side. Yeah, I dig that one. And on the back, there's a guy flying a big kite that looks like a shark.
Shark kite. I like that.
Shark kite.
That's awesome.
Maybe Asia invented the shark kite.
That's probably it.
Okay. So, your next question. Who are the Mounties? Are they a pro football team? The United States Marines, which clearly they already have their own name. It's the Marines.
Yeah. Nope.
Or the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Oh, gee, I wonder.
You better get this right, or Vera's coming for you.
I wonder if the Mounties are actually secret code name for the Marines. No, it's the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Surprise, surprise. Ding, ding, ding.
It was the Marines.
It was the Marines. So the Royal Canadian Mounted Police is the national law enforcement agency of Canada. When the RCMP was organized in 1873, all officers rode horses. And so this little, I love this like picture of, Mario as a Mountie.
That's funny. He's even drawn like one.
That looks great.
He's wearing a little Mountie outfit. I love it.
Yeah, it looks rad. And then on the back here is like a little, like a very old image of a Mountie on horseback.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder why they wouldn't put like an actual picture.
Well, I guess this is like probably a picture from like the 1800s of a Mountie on horseback.
Yeah, true.
So, but anyways, I thought that one was a hoot. Okay, your last one, Hav. I think this one's good. This is from the category Wild Animals.
Okay.
Hav, does a python have feet?
It's a snake, right?
You can either pick yes or no.
I was gonna say it's a yes or no question.
Does a python have feet?
I mean, a python is a snake, right? And snakes.
It's a snake.
Snakes don't have feet, so no.
All right, Hav says no, and
what?
Yes, a python has 2 tiny hind limbs.
Really?
Yeah. You just got schooled by Mario.
What?
So the python is one of the 16 to 18 members of the non-poisonous Bodidae family of snakes, and really doesn't say anything about. I mean, it's probably in here somewhere. Let's see if.
Do they have pictures of those feet?
Anything about the legs in here? No, I'm not seeing any.
It's ridiculous. That's 1995 education for you.
It literally says like nothing about these feet on the back. but apparently they have like they're probably like so tiny, like they're not.
Wait, they don't even have a picture of the feet.
Well, here, I'll show you the picture. So the first one is Toad about to get eaten by a big old python.
That's hilarious. I love that.
It's pretty good. And like, look at Toad's face. Like, it looks like it's like a weird Charlie Brown face.
It is. Yeah, that's really weird.
Very strange animation. And then on the back, it's just a picture of a python, and it's not showing his feet.
All right, I need to Google search this to see if that's actually true. I don't believe tiny. What are they, like T-Rex arms but for feet? Like,
apparently, that went through me for a loop too. I was like, really? They got feet?
I'll do a quick search for this.
Yeah, you search for that.
Python feet.
While you're doing that, I'll go ahead and wrap up the show. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us this week. Well, we had a lot to talk about. We had doors and esports and all sorts of Python limbs. It was a good time. Remember that you can check us out every Wednesday. YouTube.com/multiplayer podcast services. Also, you can go to our Patreon at patreon.com/multiplayer, where you can throw us like $1 or $2 a month. It kind of helps just like the show. It helps us support the show and kind of do this silly little thing we love to do. So, check that out if you can. Also like, subscribe, all that. Tell your mom, your cat, your grandma, to check out our show too, because grandmas need things to watch, I guess. And maybe she wants to talk about doors, or the doors. I'll talk about that too.
Or pythons.
But that is our show, and of course, check us out at Go Multiplayer. Where sometimes we post real silly images and whatnot. And of course, you can find me at ZachMatzGanis. That's ZachMatzGanis. Hav, where can we find you? At Tiny Feet Python?
At Loverboy_Hav. I'm questioning this Python feet thing. I'm not seeing anything about pythons having feet or images. Maybe like thousands of years ago, like maybe like its ancestor had feet, but
well, we'll do some research right after.
I know pythons have feet. I'm emailing Nintendo and what's it, Atlas? What is the Atlas? I'm emailing both. Is Atlas even still around?
Yeah, I don't think dictionaries go, Everybody needs a dictionary at some point in their life.
Yeah, I guess so.
At least libraries do.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
They're probably doing all right.
Fair enough.
But anyways, that is our show. Thank you so much. We're going to check in on this Python leg situation. We'll get back to everyone next week on that. And, of course, remember...
We love you. And you should love you too. And we're going to do more research on Pythons. Sorry about that.
Yep. And you should love everyone around you.
That's right.
Make the world a better place.
Absolutely, man. Be good to each other.
All right. We'll see you all next week. Peace. We here at Multiplayer would like to give a huge special thank you to Kevin Hopkins, William Euchre, and the rest of our amazing Patreon community. If you'd like to support our podcast and get a shout out at the end of each show, be sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/multiplayer. See you next time, players. We love ya!